Okay, so we're going to reread these lines about Christopher's father. So this is the scene where Christopher tells his father about this boy named Terry. Oh Lord, Terry! He tells him about how Terry was kind of bullying on him. He called him a spaz, so like a really spastic person. So this was his father's response to him being told that he was being bullied a little bit. He says, "When I told this to father, he said that Terry was jealous of my being cleverer than him. Father says Terry is most likely going to end up in prison." So, my question to you in 1 to 2 sentences, what is revealed about Christopher's father from these lines? Okay, so some possible ideas here. His father listens to Christopher, and Christopher trusts his father enough to share his interactions that happened with Terry. And although his father's comments about Terry are not very nice, it shows that he's willing to stick up for his son. And that's kind of on par with what he's been throughout the story so far. I mean, he bailed Christopher out of prison or out of jail. He kind of like stuck by his side. Now we see him sticking up for him. So he'll go to bat for his son, essentially. Okay, so one more question about this section before we move on. So throughout the novel, Haddon has been including some unconventional vocab word, unconventional components in Christopher's narration. For example, in the pages we just read, certain words are bolded, and a formula, A equals 1, B equals 2, etc., for changing words into prime numbers is included. So these kind of things, normally if you're reading a novel, you just see words on a page, right? But in this book, we see some very atypical or unconventional things. So what are some of the other unconventional elements that we have come across so far? Capture them here. Try to capture at least two other unconventional things in this novel that we've seen so far. Okay, so a lot of things you could have put here. Remember, he drew like the emojis. That was the first day we read. He drew like illustration of the Milky Way, charts about prime numbers, things in his pocket. He made a list of metaphors. We talked about the footnotes in our warm up that one day. And then, of course, you could have also put about the digressions, remember, veering off the main point. Those aren't really normally very typical in novels either. So we see a lot of unconventional elements just throughout this novel, and we'll see a lot more as we go as well. Okay, so we are going to return, if you're in your novels, back to the bottom of page 26, which is the start of chapter 53. Mother died 2 weeks later. I had not been into hospital to see her, but father had taken in lots of food from Marks and Spencer's. He said that said that she had been looking okay and seemed to be getting better. She had sent me lots of love and had my get well card on the table beside her bed. Father said that she liked it very much. The card had pictures of cars on the front. It looked like this. I did it at school with Mrs. Peters, who does art, and it was a lino cut, which is when you draw a picture on a piece of lino, and Mrs. Peters cuts around the picture with a Stanley knife, and then you put ink on the lino and press it onto the paper, which is why all the cars look the same. Because I did one car and pressed it on the paper 9 times. And it was Mrs. Peters' idea to do lots of cars, which I liked. And I colored all the cars in with red paint to make it a super, super good day for Mother. Father said that she died of a heart attack, and it wasn't expected. I said, "What kind of heart attack?" Because I was surprised. Mother was only 38 years old, and heart attacks usually happen to older people. And Mother was very active and rode a bicycle and ate food which was healthy and high in fiber and low in saturated fat, like chicken and vegetables and that word, muesli. Father said that he didn't know what kind of heart attack she had, and now wasn't the moment to be asking questions like that. I said it was probably an aneurysm. A heart attack is when some of the muscles in the heart stop getting blood and die. There are two main types of heart attacks. The first is an embolism. This is when a blood clot blocks one of the blood vessels taking blood to the muscles in the heart. And you can stop this from happening by taking aspirin and eating fish, which is why Eskimos don't get this sort of heart attack, because they eat fish and fish stops their blood from clotting. But if they cut themselves badly, they can bleed to death. But an aneurysm is when a blood vessel breaks and the blood doesn't go into the heart muscle because it is leaking. And some people get aneurysms just because there is a weak bit in their blood vessels, like Mrs. Hardesty, who lived at number 72 in our street, who had a weak bit in the blood vessel in her neck and died just because she turned her head round to reverse her car into a parking space. On the other hand, it could have been an embolism, because your blood clots around much more easily when you are lying down for a long time, like when you are in a hospital. Father said, "I'm so sorry, Christopher. I'm really sorry. But it wasn't his fault." Then Mrs. Shears came over and cooked supper for us, and she was wearing sandals and jeans and a t-shirt which had the words windsurf and Corfu and a picture of a windsurfer on it. And Father was sitting down, and she stood next to him and held his head against her bosom and said, "Come on, Ed. We're going to get you through this." And then she made us spaghetti and tomato sauce. And after dinner, she played Scrabble with me, and I beat her 247 points to 134. Okay, so we are going to stop reading for the day, but one final question and then your exit ticket. So, as we started the novel, we read the article Narrative versus Story, and it reminded us that a narrator makes decisions or choices about how to communicate the story to us, the readers. So essentially, remember, the story is just what happened, but the narrative, that's how whoever is telling the story is telling the story to us. And if that narrator is limited somehow, then it leaves us as the reader information to fill in. So these are some quotes where people were kind of critiquing the book. First one says, "Christopher doesn't explain things too much. He just paints a picture and leaves a lot of space." Second quote says, "The book contains huge gaps that the readers fill without noticing." So my question to you, what are the gaps in the narration about his mother's death? How does his limited narration impact us as a reader? So in other words, what do we not know about his mother and her death because we're seeing it from his perspective? So some things you might have thought of, possible answers. We know little about his mother's condition, aside from the fact that it was an unspecified heart condition that kept her in the hospital for 2 weeks, apparently without seeing Christopher at all. So Christopher only describes feeling surprised, which seems odd and understated given the loss of a mother. Readers might be curious as to why Christopher is not more emotionally involved or why he's not more frustrated, because they want more information, but it's not forthcoming. You're not going to get the information. So because we're seeing it from Christopher's perspective, and Christopher never even saw his mother in the hospital, and he doesn't know specifics about her illness, it kind of leaves us a lot of blanks that we have to question as readers. All right, y'all. So on the next slides will be your exit tickets. Go ahead and complete that, and then you are done for the Monday, Tuesday assignment in my class. On Wednesday, I will post your second assignment for the week that you will have until the end of Thursday to complete. Peace.